Aaron Cole and Emily Cole looked like a couple built on quiet trust, but behind their ordinary smiles was a truth so dark it would take a life to uncover. While Emily slowly faded inside a home meant to protect her, Aaron perfected the image of a devoted husband, carefully hiding the choices that would later shock an entire community. What began as a peaceful marriage would soon unravel into a calculated nightmare, one where love was only a disguise, and grief became the most dangerous lie of all. Aaron Cole looked like the kind of man people trusted without question. He dressed neatly, spoke politely, and carried himself with calm confidence. To neighbors and coworkers, he was dependable and gentle, the sort of person who never raised his voice or caused trouble. His marriage to Emily appeared just as steady. They lived a quiet life built on routines that felt safe and familiar. Morning coffee, shared errands, and evenings spent at home created an image of comfort and stability that few ever doubted. Emily was often described as warm and thoughtful, someone who took pride in keeping their home welcoming. Friends noticed how Aaron always stayed close to her in public, attentive and protective. On social media, their photos showed smiling faces, holiday celebrations, and simple moments that suggested genuine happiness. There were no visible arguments, no public signs of strain, and no rumors of conflict. Their life blended perfectly into the background of a peaceful community where nothing truly bad was expected to happen. Behind closed doors, however, the marriage was built on silence rather than closeness. Small changes went unnoticed by outsiders. Emily had grown quieter over time, less energetic than before. Aaron, on the other hand, became more controlled and distant, though he masked it well. He paid close attention to how others saw him, carefully shaping his image as a loving husband. Every action seemed intentional, every gesture measured. What no one realized was that this ordinary life was the foundation for something far darker. The calm routines, the familiar smiles, and the carefully maintained appearance were not signs of safety but tools. While the world saw a devoted husband living a simple life, a hidden plan was already forming beneath the surface, waiting patiently for the right moment to reveal its true and terrifying purpose. The night Emily died began like any other, quiet and uneventful. There were no signs of panic, no desperate calls for help, and no sounds that drew attention from nearby homes. When her body was discovered inside the house, the scene appeared calm, almost too calm for a sudden death. There were no obvious injuries, no signs of forced entry, and nothing immediately suggested violence. The atmosphere felt frozen in time, as if life had simply stopped without warning. News of Emily's death spread quickly through the community, bringing disbelief and sadness. People struggled to understand how someone so young and seemingly healthy could be gone without explanation. Aaron was at the center of the tragedy, visibly shaken and overwhelmed. He handled the immediate aftermath with quiet efficiency, contacting authorities, arranging details, and accepting comfort from those around him. His behavior appeared natural for a man in shock, and nothing about his actions raised alarm at first. Investigators arrived and conducted a routine examination of the home. With no clear evidence of foul play, the death was initially treated as unexplained but not suspicious. Early medical observations failed to reveal a clear cause, leaving open the possibility of a sudden illness. The lack of struggle or disturbance reinforced the belief that this was a tragic but natural loss. The case moved forward slowly, with no urgency pressing for deeper answers. As days passed, sympathy for Aaron grew. He was seen as a man whose life had been shattered overnight. Friends described him as lost and broken, while neighbors brought food and messages of support. The house that once symbolized stability now felt hollow and quiet. Yet beneath the surface of this collective grief, the truth remained hidden, waiting silently while the world accepted a story that seemed simple but was anything but. In the weeks after the funeral, Aaron's grief became a public performance that never seemed to falter. He dressed in dark colors, kept his head lowered, and moved through each day as if carrying a heavy weight. He visited the cemetery often, sometimes staying for long periods, standing alone in silence. Online, he shared carefully chosen memories of Emily, painting a picture of a love that had been deep and unbreakable. People responded with sympathy, offering comfort and praise for his strength. At home, the house remained exactly as Emily had left it. Her belongings stayed in place, untouched, as if preserved on purpose. Aaron spoke about how difficult it was to move anything, explaining that every object reminded him of her. To others, this seemed like proof of his pain. But those who paid close attention noticed something strange. His routines were steady and controlled, never disrupted by sudden emotion. His sadness appeared measured, as though it followed a script rather than genuine waves of loss. He began attending grief support events and charity gatherings in Emily's name, gaining even more public admiration. Each appearance reinforced the image of a man destroyed by tragedy, yet trying to honor his wife's memory. At the same time, he avoided close conversations about the night she died, steering discussions toward memories instead of details. Questions were gently redirected, never fully answered. Behind this carefully managed sorrow was a sense of distance that felt unnatural. Aaron never appeared confused or searching for answers. He accepted Emily's death too easily, never pushing for explanations or demanding clarity. While others struggled to understand what had happened, he seemed already at peace with it. That quiet acceptance, hidden beneath layers of visible grief, was the first sign that something about the grieving widower was not what it seemed. Months after Emily's death, the case resurfaced quietly, not because of new witnesses or sudden accusations, but because certain details refused to settle. A routine review of medical records raised questions about symptoms Emily had experienced before she died. They were vague, but unusual, not easily explained by stress or illness. Investigators noticed that these complaints had appeared gradually and had never been fully diagnosed. The timeline felt incomplete, as if important pieces were missing. Attention turned back to the house. Earlier reports had described the scene as normal, yet subtle inconsistencies began to stand out. Items were placed too neatly, surfaces too clean, and areas that should have shown signs of daily life appeared staged. It was not obvious enough to suggest a crime at first glance, but it created doubt. The absence of disorder began to feel unnatural rather than reassuring. Financial records added another layer of concern. Insurance policies had been adjusted shortly before Emily's death, increasing payouts in ways that seemed unnecessary. Investigators also discovered mounting debt hidden beneath a calm public image. Credit cards, private loans, and overdue payments painted a picture of pressure Aaron never shared with friends or family. The stability everyone believed in was built on fragile ground. Small contradictions in Aaron's statements also came to light. Dates, times, and minor details shifted when compared across reports. None of these inconsistencies alone proved anything, but together they formed a troubling pattern. His version of events felt polished, almost rehearsed, lacking the confusion expected after sudden loss. As these cracks widened, investigators realized the case deserved a deeper look. What had once appeared to be a tragic but simple death now felt layered and uncertain. The comforting story everyone accepted began to unravel, revealing the possibility that the truth had been hidden in plain. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a side of Aaron's life that had never been visible to those around him. Phone records revealed multiple accounts linked to false names, some active late at night when he claimed to be home alone. Online activity showed hours spent on private forums and hidden profiles that had no connection to the grieving widower image he presented publicly. These discoveries suggested a carefully divided existence, one part visible and respectable, the other secretive and controlled. Travel records and location data exposed further inconsistencies. On several occasions, Aaron's phone had been miles away from home while he told others he was working late or resting. These absences had never raised suspicion at the time, but now they hinted at deliberate deception. Neighbors began recalling small moments they had dismissed before: unfamiliar cars parked briefly near the house, lights turning on and off at unusual hours, and late-night activity that did not match the quiet life Aaron described. Investigators also examined digital searches stored across his devices. The history revealed a disturbing pattern of research related to illness symptoms, medication interactions, and untraceable substances. The searches stretched back months, forming a slow and deliberate trail rather than a sudden moment of curiosity. This was not the behavior of someone reacting to tragedy, but of someone preparing for it. Even more troubling was the discovery that Aaron had isolated Emily in subtle ways. Messages showed canceled visits, missed gatherings, and excuses made on her behalf. Over time, her world had grown smaller while his control grew stronger. What once looked like devotion now appeared as quiet manipulation. The image of a faithful husband collapsed under the weight of these findings. Aaron was no longer seen as a victim of loss, but as a man living behind layers of lies. Each secret uncovered made one thing clear. Emily's death was not an isola. With growing suspicion, investigators returned to the physical evidence that had once been considered unremarkable. The house was examined again, this time with a different mindset. Tiny details that were previously ignored began to matter. Traces on kitchen surfaces suggested repeated cleaning rather than routine tidying. Certain containers showed residue inconsistent with their labels. What once appeared orderly now felt deliberately controlled, as if chaos had been erased on purpose. Forensic specialists focused on Emily's medical findings with renewed attention. New tests revealed substances that should not have been present in her system. The amounts were small, carefully measured, and unlikely to cause immediate alarm. Instead, they pointed to long-term exposure. The pattern explained her gradual decline, the unexplained fatigue, and the symptoms that never quite made sense. This was not a sudden event, but a slow process designed to avoid detection. Investigators also recreated the final days leading up to her death. Timelines were reconstructed using digital data, receipts, and environmental evidence. The results showed that Aaron's movements were precise and intentional. There were gaps that aligned too perfectly with the estimated timing of the fatal exposure. His actions suggested calm preparation rather than panic or confusion. The emotional image he presented after Emily's death now appeared calculated. Experts noted how his behavior matched common expectations of grief without showing genuine unpredictability. Every public action seemed aimed at reinforcing innocence. The mask he wore had been carefully built long before the tragedy occurred. As evidence accumulated, the theory of an accident collapsed completely. What remained was a chilling realization that the scene had been staged to mislead. The truth was no longer hidden in shadows, but emerging clearly, revealing a crime shaped by patience, control, and a disturbing level of foresight. The full truth emerged slowly, pieced together from months of evidence rather than a single shocking discovery. Investigators concluded that Emily had been poisoned over an extended period. Her body weakened gradually to make her death appear natural. The substances found were chosen carefully, producing symptoms that could easily be mistaken for stress or illness. Each small dose pushed her closer to the end without raising immediate concern from doctors or those around her. Digital records revealed the depth of planning behind the crime. Aaron had researched dosage levels, detection methods, and timelines long before Emily showed serious symptoms. He tracked her condition closely, adjusting his actions to maintain control while avoiding suspicion. The method required patience, and he showed no signs of hesitation. The evidence painted a picture of a man who treated another human life as a problem to be solved rather than a person to be protected. What made the truth especially disturbing was how well Aaron balanced his public and private roles. While quietly causing harm, he maintained the image of a caring husband. He attended appointments, handled household duties, and appeared supportive as Emily's health declined. This behavior later helped him justify his innocence, as it aligned perfectly with what people expected from a devoted partner. The motive became clear as financial and personal pressure surfaced. The increased insurance benefits, combined with debt and a desire to escape responsibility formed the foundation of his plan. Emily's death was not an act of sudden rage, but the result of deliberate choice. By the time investigators completed their findings, the grieving widower image had completely collapsed. What remained was a calculated offender whose calm exterior had concealed a blood-chilling truth from everyone who trusted him. Aaron was taken into custody once the evidence reached a point that could no longer be ignored. The arrest came quietly, without spectacle, mirroring the careful way the crime itself had unfolded. The community reacted with disbelief as details became public. People who had once offered support now struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the actions he was accused of committing. The home that had symbolized comfort became a reminder of betrayal. As the case moved forward, the full scope of the investigation was revealed. Forensic reports, digital records, and financial documents formed a clear narrative of planning and intent. Each piece of evidence reinforced the conclusion that Emily's death was not an accident or medical mystery, but a calculated act carried out over time. The careful staging that once misled authorities now worked against Aaron, exposing the very control he believed would protect him. The trial brought a sense of finality, even as it reopened wounds for those who had cared about Emily. Her life was examined in detail, not for who she was, but for how it had been taken. The focus on facts and timelines left little room for doubt. The verdict confirmed what investigators had already uncovered, delivering accountability where once there had been uncertainty. In the aftermath, the case became a cautionary story. It showed how easily appearances can deceive and how danger can hide behind routine and kindness. Emily was remembered not as a victim of chance, but as someone whose trust had been exploited. The grieving widower image faded into history, replaced by a chilling lesson. The most terrifying truths often come from those who seem the least capable of harm.